Hello and welcome to this video, which covers the 9th round of the candidates tournament currently held in Moscow. Yeah, the 9th round means we are nearing the finishing line. Every game is getting in some way more important. Yeah, I mean it's the same kind of point that you can earn on round 1, but still, as it gets closer to the finishing line, things get tighter, get more tense. Let's see what happened in this round. I'm starting with the game Nakamura Karjakin, which means a pairing between a player who's not really in contention anymore. Nakamura is too far behind with being on -2, having lost 3 games already. And Karjakin was yet, unbeaten. Yeah, he was in trouble in a couple of games, but still unbeaten. And is with a +2 score among the leaders. Let's see what happened in this game. You can almost guess the opening. And this is the Queen's Indian tournament. Got this so often. It's quite funny. We get a line that we have seen a lot in the earlier rounds. This position here after rook b1 actually was on the board in the game between was that Topalov? I would really need to look that up. Topalov Karjakin, I believe, right? I don't want to talk nonsense here, but I think it's Topalov Karjakin. We had this earlier. The idea is to play b4 in this position and trying to make the move c5 a little bit less attractive for black. In this earlier game, Karjakin had played c5, and after takes, we had the position with knight e5. That got very tense, but I think Topalov probably had an interesting attacking possibility there. Knight bd7 is now played by Karjakin. It's funny, the coming variation, the coming line with b4, bishop c4, as apparently had been suggested in notes to that earlier game by Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, who's covering some of the candidates tournaments games on chess.com in a blog or as part of their coverage. MVL is their star commentator. And he had given this line here. Bishop f4, knight e4, takes, knight d2, bishop takes a2. Funny, yeah? White is giving away this pawn on a2. But it has a funny point, interesting point. Bishop takes e4. Very interesting. The rook is attacked, but it's also white's rook which is under fire. After bishop b1, queen b1, white is happy to sacrifice this exchange. Here black should not save the rook. He can play rook b8, yeah? just to show what happens, but white will capture on h7 and go back. And here enjoys a fantastic compensation for the exchange. He's got a pawn. Black's king position is bad. White has got 2 very good bishops and great central control. Here there's also the ongoing idea of playing something like b5, which would make both those 2 pawns look pretty bad. Also note that the rooks currently don't have any scope. This position is excellent for white. So Karjakin played knight to f6 and decided to give back the exchange immediately. This is what happened. And now e4 was played. Nakamura grabbed this central space. He played this rather quickly, the whole sequence. But now Karjakin came up with rook d8, and it seems that he was taking some time there, not blitzing out the moves. After this move, things are not so easy for white. This pawn is under fire, and how do you react here? A possibility here is the move rook to c1, attacking c7. But after rook d4, rook c7, it doesn't really lead to that much. Yeah, black can play bishop d8 here if he likes, or rook d7. Rook d7, however, allows this interesting possibility, which at least gets some material imbalance. Yeah, after after a rook move. Yeah, like this, for example. It's an interesting position. Black can also play this. Looks a bit strange, but he can also return this and have a good position here. The whole thing looks okay for black, I think. Bishop e3 was played by Nakamura after long thought, and now knight g4. This was the problem with bishop e3, but you had to cover the pawn somehow. Yeah, h3 and captured. White had to allow this somewhat broken pawn structure, but at least he has some pawns in the center that control important squares. Yeah, I think Karjakin now plays that well. He plays the move a5. This is strong. Yeah, White now only has some options or has moves that don't really feel that great, but he doesn't have anything better. If he goes b5, he has to worry about the a pawn, and after the capture, black's queen gets activated. This was the better move, clearly. Queen a5, and now queen c2 happened, queen g5. Yeah, rook f3 and c5. Yeah, the situation is a bit uncomfortable for white here. And after queen b3, now played by Nakamura, I think Karjakin could have improved on his play. He took on d4, ignoring this threat on f7. After that, I think the position is probably equal. It looks very tactical, but it kind of fizzles out. Strong would have been probably queen to h5 in this position, covering and attacking at the same time. Okay, you cannot easily take on h3, but it's under fire, this pawn. And I don't really know what white should do here. Nothing looks totally satisfactory. He can go d5. Yeah, black was threatening to take that pawn, so d5. And then rook b8, intending to play c5. And this doesn't look great. I think black is quite comfortable here. For example, after a simple move, which probably isn't so great, king g2, there's b5, and those pawns are dangerous, while the center is not going anywhere. White's not lost, it's complicated, but I think black has the better chances here. Yeah, he played this, a tactical solution, but this ultimately doesn't net much. But only because Nakamura plays a sequence of very precise defensive moves. h4, queen e5, and now knight c4. He had to calculate all that perfectly. Queen takes rook f4, and also again strong. Looking at this, attacking the queen, of course, and this now is forced. Now black has to watch out. This is hanging, and there's potential trouble on the back rank. Yeah, he went with rook g8, giving up this bishop. Well, he gets the knight back, but this is understandable. Understandable move. Yeah, it looks a bit dangerous. Yeah, knight f7 would be made, but white doesn't get any tricks in.
Check.
Yeah, now the knight gets eliminated, and b pawn and e pawn are just as dangerous for either side.
Check.
Yeah, we can fast forward a little bit. Here they agree to a draw after just queen b3. It's totally equal. Yeah, a good fighting game between the two. Nakamura's opening idea with this offering the exchange.
Check.
Yeah, we should maybe have a look briefly at this again. Here, offering the exchange was answered very convincingly by Karjakin, not taking the exchange, but returning it immediately, or let's say not keeping the exchange, but returning it immediately instead of letting white capture on h7. So good defense by Karjakin, which is anyway his best trait. Yeah, he's a fantastic defender. He saved a couple of really bad positions already in that tournament. A couple is too much, but yeah, he could have lost against Svidler, for example, and was in trouble in one more game. Okay, so next game we look at Topalov, Svidler. Also, again, two players who will not be involved in the top places. Topalov is currently last in the event, and Svidler has a tournament of spoiled opportunities. Yeah, he could have won against Karjakin, could have won against Caruana, but he didn't do it. I mean, he could have easily been on a plus score. Okay, this game is actually a little bit more complicated than I probably make it look like now in the analysis, but I don't want to be too detailed. I have a little bit of a time restraint today. We have a Rui, and Svidler is not a Berlin player. He plays the old main line with a6 and plays castles again, as he did earlier in the event against Vichy. A game that he lost quite convincingly. Very nice game by Anand. I'm a bit surprised that he plays it again. I mean, not that this is bad. It's the martial attack move order. It's just that Svidler also has a great history of playing the closed Rui, which starts here, where he most of the time plays the side serve, but he also has played the Breyer. Yeah, I would have expected him to maybe return to that. But okay, it seems that he has prepared the marshals, so castles. Okay, he gets the a4 anti-marshal again, and now switches to b4. He played bishop b7 against Arnold, but b4 in the last couple of years has become the main line, so no big surprise there. d3. Yeah, not a surprise, that would be too much, but in recent years they have experimented a lot with d4, which ultimately didn't lead to much, but still it was discussed a lot. Okay, d3 and h6. Yeah, black has a couple of options how to play here. Another option is to go for a quicker knight a5, for example something like this, like d6, knight bd2, knight a5. This is also something that we see quite often and I think is quite reliable. I'm not a huge expert here because I play the closed Rui all the time, don't play the marshal, so I cannot get this position in my own games. Yeah, Svidler plays a little bit differently here. It starts with h6 and here plays with rook to b8. I'm not entirely sure about this whole concept. I mean, it looks kind of normal, as you quite often play in those Rui lines, but it's quite clear that Svidler got into some trouble out of the opening. So h3, not yet, but we will see. d4, yeah, and now bishop f8. Yeah, the situation on the queen side is what makes this different compared to some other Rui Lopez lines. Quite often you would see this rook e8, bishop f8 and so on, but black then does not, we don't have this situation on the queen side. And it seems that the coming operation that Svidler goes for, which is not untypical, does not lead to a satisfactory position. He clarifies the situation in the center and plays knight to b4. Yeah, the idea is that the knight on c6 is not well placed, and by moving it, you get these ideas in to play c5 and d5. Possibly, if you can get it in, even both moves, try to get active in the center and try to fight the white pawn center. The drawback of all this is it doesn't seem to quite work. I mean, it's close, but it doesn't seem to quite work. Topalov plays bishop a3, and now whatever black does, it's a little bit awkward. It's a little bit awkward. Yeah, black cannot go here. I mean, it doesn't make any sense what I'm trying to say. After rook e3, the knight has to return. So what is the alternative? Svidler played the move d5 in this position. But that didn't really work. Yeah, it got him into trouble at least. He could play c5. This is an interesting option, but after e5, it feels very dangerous for black, like knight d5, knight e4. Somehow this didn't really work out for him. And after d5, Topalov had the strong move knight to e5. And the problem is you always have this annoying pressure here on f7, and it's very hard for black to deal with that. Svidler played bishop b7 and now queen f3. Again, lining up here against f7. Currently there's a knight on f6, but there is a tactic available that we will see very quickly. This is not like a winning sacrifice or anything, but the thing is, after king takes is forced e5, white will get this back, and the remaining structure, or the resulting structure, is just very nice for white. Black has to get his king out of this, and now after these trades, the position is just very nice for white. He actually had alternatives along the way, but this is a nice position. This is hanging, this is somewhat backward, and black is under pressure. He played c5. This is the best chance. You need to be active. You cannot just stay and be passive. So that's the best defense. Knight f3 and rook to b8. Yeah, knight e5 looks normal. Yeah, centralize this. This got traded. Bishop d6 and now bishop b2. Yeah, white has the more active position, and this is a pretty bad piece. Also note that black constantly has to worry with this diagonal. Yeah, this is a tough decision, but he needed to probably get rid of this. Yeah, it was tough to play with the queens on the board, even though this position now is clearly favorable for white. Yeah, due to the bishop pair. Rook b5, trying to at least attack this pawn. Now bishop d1, not the only move, but I think what Topalov is doing here is totally fine. He just here has to improve. After bishop c6, he now played the move bishop c2, and after that black is somehow back in the game. If he would have played bishop a4, I think he would have been very, very close to winning the game. Yeah, what is black supposed to do? The relatively best is rook b4. Yeah, rook b4, counter-attacking. Yeah, what is white doing? Just grabbing this, of course. Rook takes, and now rook to d1. And this is very, very awkward. Now this position is a lot better for white, who's just threatening to grab this pawn, and black is sitting in this very awkward pin. Yeah, this is not helping. Fancy trick, but it doesn't help.
Check. Check.
Yeah, this gets lost. Yeah, and what is black supposed to play? I mean, he can play a king move, but white just goes here and will again win one of the pawns. White is probably winning. If not, would be very, very weird. I mean, it must be very close to a win. Okay, this is what he played, however. And now after knight f4, black is quite surprisingly close to consolidating. One important point is that here he gets to activate with tempo, and his bishop comes to b5, where it is all of a sudden anchored. Yeah, it's nicely protected by this and can go here to protect d5. So all of a sudden black's pieces have some coordination. White still is probably quite happy with his bishops, but they are not as important here anymore, as the black position is much better coordinated. Yeah, of course Topalov continued. Yeah, he still has this symbolic advantage, but the worst is definitely over for black.
Check. Check.
Yeah, here they agreed to a draw. Actually, I think he could have tried to continue the play. Oh, they didn't agree to a draw. Why is that finished here? That's funny. I'm sorry, no, this is my screw up. I was actually thinking, okay, I'm sorry. They agreed to a draw here, but I wasn't quite sure why actually, because after king g6, Topalov could have still tried the move h4, tried to play h5, and there is no, it's not totally clear why white needs to agree to a draw here. I mean, he offered the draw, but why he should stop trying to play for a win. I mean, I'm not saying white is a lot better here, but you could continue here. I don't know, maybe Topalov didn't judge that correctly, and he's pretty fed up with the whole thing. It's possible. I mean, even he's on -3. He has to win like the rest of his games to get somewhere. I mean, okay, if he really would win the rest of the games, he would probably qualify. But it doesn't feel realistic at all. Okay, the next game to check is what am I doing here? My notes are a mess. It's the game Giri Caruana. So what is the starting point for that game? Giri is on 50%, 8 draws, and Caruana has scored a win against Nakamura, so is sitting pretty okay with his +1 score. He's definitely in contention. So Giri has to make a move, and I mean not just a move, a move on the board. He has to also get something going. Yeah, you need to win games. So, aha. First of all, I think it's great that Caruana is not playing something super solid. He seems to be out for the Grunfeld, and Giri plays f3. This is not part of his regular repertoire. I mean, he plays that sometimes, but it's not a regular feature of his openings. And this is probably one of the sharpest lines that you can play. The idea is that after the typical Grunfeld move that was played, white will go e4, and black here has nothing to take on c3, so he has to go back to b6. And here, quite often we see extremely sharp play with white going for long castles. And this is exactly what Giri needs to do here. He has to win a game, and I really love his opening choice here. And not playing something cautious, whatever. He has to win a game at one point. And this is obviously what he wants to try here. Black has a couple of options here. He can play knight c6, for example, or I think even the move queen d6 has been tried. I hope I'm not talking nonsense here. But what Caruana plays is a traditional line that has been played, even back in the 90s. e5, attacking the center directly, and now going c6. h4. This is what white needs to do here. You cannot play subtle positional chess here. You want to checkmate on the h file. Takes, and h5. The move knight a6 is a rare move. The far more common option here, instead, should show that briefly, is rook a to d7. The idea usually being that the knight comes over to f6 to put more pressure on that pawn. This was, for example, played in the Anand Gelfand match in 2012. Knight a6. This has a very, very sharp idea. h5, knight b4, h takes g6, and now the shocking move bishop to f5. This is really amazing what Caruana is playing here. It's obviously part of his preparation, played this quite quickly, but Giri had to invest some time to figure things out. Black is just ignoring this h5, hg6, and goes for play on c2. Okay.
Check.
White took this, and king h8, of course. What about this? Knight c2 is a threat. This move looks fairly logical. Stepping out of this fork and supporting the d-pawn. Black now went knight c2 check and grabbed on e3, this position. It seems that this was part of Caruana's preparation. And this is a pretty amazing concept. If we just do a simple counting, black has given up 2 pawns for this position. And to be honest, I don't quite believe it works. But yeah, it is a pretty amazing concept. He now plays the move bishop to d7. This is played in order to get the f pawn involved into the game. Black had alternatives. He could have played rook c8, for example, but this is obviously what he wanted to do. Bishop to d7, trying to play f5. Problem is, however, after knight h3, f5, and now f4, it's not totally clear how black is supposed to open up the position against the white king. This is what he actually tried. He tried to open everything up as much as possible, but I'm not quite sure it works so well. The computer, Stockfish in that case, wants to play the move e4, and after knight g5, rook c8. Pretty amazing, eh? And the computer just gives white a slight advantage in this position. So black definitely has some compensation here. It's, however, pretty tough for me to believe that it is enough for 2 pawns. However, you should never underestimate the practical side to play this position. It's not easy at all to suggest some clear idea for white here. Yeah, it's 2 pawns, but the h pawn on h7, well, it's kind of limiting black's king, but it's also something that can easily drop if you remove your pieces away. And the d pawn looks nice, but currently is nowhere near promotion. It's very, very tough to judge. He played rook c8, and after g3 again had this opportunity to play e4, and it seems that this is what he should do. The issue is white is now ready to take this pawn, and this is what Caruana simply ignored with his move, and it doesn't seem to just quite work. He plays knight c4 here. Yeah, Giri has to take this, and now takes on e5. Now white is 3 pawns up, but that wasn't the end of it. The idea was to play f4. Yeah, pretty cool. Yeah, white now has to take with the knight, taking with the pawn after bishop takes, rook takes. Yeah, this probably takes.
Check.
Looks very dangerous for white. It is a lot stronger to take with the knight. Yeah, and note that white is 4 pawns up. 4. Okay, queen g5 by Caruana. The white king is, of course, not feeling too well there, but still, it's 4 pawns. This is not the 4-pawn attack, this is a 4-pawn gambit. An absolutely wild position. Yeah, Giri now plays rook to d4. This returns a pawn. It's a very understandable move, really. And it was played in the face of a black idea. If white is not paying attention, which sounds very weird in a position like that, black might sacrifice on f4. I mean, a move like a3, for example, black will take here.
Check. Check.
Check. King back, and then
check.
Stuff like that.
Check.
Yeah, this is winning for black. White has to pay attention to that idea. Both sacrifice actually would work. And the best move was not played by Giri. Very, very difficult to play this position. It seems that instead of giving back a pawn with rook d4, he had to move king to e1, and that seems to be very strong. It's a typical computer move. The computer is absolutely cold-blooded and just moves the king back to its starting square. So what are the ideas here? If black, well, start the easy ones. This is mate in one. But bishop takes is also not great because of this.
Check.
Yeah, and white is managing to kill off the attack, and he's still got 3 pawns. Yeah, so the e5 pawn is taboo, cannot be taken. Yeah, so what is black's move actually? The problem is that white also has the idea rook to h5. If black tries this, for example, trying to take here, then rook h5 is hitting, and this is pretty awful. The relatively best that black can try is this, but after knight takes, rook takes, and something like this, white retains a winning position. Yeah, it's simply too many pawns. If we look at this, yeah, here it's 3 pawns, and black is also under direct threats like rook e7. This is not a position that that black can fight or so. Sometimes you can fight, yeah, with 2 bishops against 2 knights. You have some fighting ideas. We will see that later in the game. But here black simply has no moves. I mean, what is he supposed to play? Rook e7 is the threat. Yes, he cannot take this, for example. After king e1, it seems that here black does not have a good move. That rook h5 is a threat, and of course, if things kind of dry out, then white is just winning with 4 pawns. So this was probably a way to win the game right here. It's still, I mean, it's a super messy position, so you cannot say for sure that this would have won, but it's objectively speaking, this is probably the case. Rook d4, understandable move, yeah. Trade 1 rook and give 1 pawn back to kind of calm down black's initiative. But it's now back down to 3 pawns. It's not 4 anymore, just 3. Okay. Giri set up a defensive formation here, trying to coordinate. Yeah, the rook is coming here, but black is holding on. Note that, okay, pure body count is 3 pawns, but it's absolutely not easy for white to get to play some constructive play. The G pawn cannot easily move, as it needs to be there to anchor this knight. The D pawn is under control, and how are you actually going to do something? It is remarkably difficult. It's 3 pawns, but very difficult to win. However, in this precise position, probably there is an improvement. Giri went queen to d2, stepping out of the e file. It seems that rook h5 again was a good move. Again, I mean, we had this in an earlier line. The idea is that black has some issues now with finding a useful move. What is he supposed to play? If for example, what is an idea? Let's say here, yeah, this is not working due to rook e5.
Check.
Yeah, deciding immediately. Black is somewhat limited in his choices. If he plays bishop d6, we manage to trade queens. Yeah, I mean, this is not helping. Difficult for black to suggest a move. The engine wants to take, but this is something that black is quite reluctant to do. Yeah, getting into some self-pin after king g1. I think white is quite happy that black went into this, like this and this, tending a queen up. Could be tricky for black. It's still not easy winning or so, but it's probably a bit more testing than Giri's move. He went back, and black, I'm sorry, here d6s needs to be. Here black is reasonably active again. Rook c2 all of a sudden becomes an option. Yeah, I mean, it looks a bit weird that white is kind of giving back all the pawns, but how do you continue against this pressure? Yeah, he played this in order to gain the d5 square. Yeah, I really understand his play. I mean, he's still 2 pawns up, but it kind of it's not a great trend. Yeah, you've been on +4 pawns. Yeah, not +4 evaluation, but it's been 4 pawns. Now it's just 2, and G and H pawn are not looking dangerous immediately. But it was an immensely difficult position to play. And note that Caruana is defending like a lion. Yeah, this is really something to take note of. This tournament shows how strong nowadays the defensive capabilities are of the top players. They absolutely don't lose worse positions automatically. Now, they very quickly recognize, oh, I'm in trouble. I have to now give 120, 130% and give everything to defend. And really bad positions have been saved in this tournament, not because of bad technical play. In some cases this has happened, but also because of fantastic defensive effort. And Caruana is just hanging on here in this position.
Check.
Yeah, he just has gotten the next pawn back.
Check.
Yeah.
Check.
What white got,
Check.
a couple of checks,
Check.
but well, here now he gets this knight in, and attacks now with 2 knights. This was Giri's idea. He still retains the pawn, but now gets his knights activated. I have to say that this game from here is still going on for more than 50 moves, and I don't intend to commentate on them. White is basically getting nowhere, which does not mean that this was easy to play for black. Yeah, he still had to be absolutely astute, look at all the tricks and knights jumps and whatever, but Caruana is simply not breaking down. There wasn't a single opportunity from here where Giri could have won the game. Yeah, he tried really everything. Now into a knight against bishop.
Check.
Yeah, takes ages, but ultimately
Check.
it's the longest game of the event.
Check.
Yeah, if you here they agree to a draw. There's nothing going on. If white is not checking, then he will face bishop c4 with counterplay here against against the king. A great defensive effort by Caruana. I think what happened here is he prepared this super sharp opening and then had a really weak moment when he decided on that knight c4 business when he was those 4 pawns down. I mean, it looks interesting, definitely. It's not like it looks totally nonsensical, but it's 4 pawns and king e1 seems to have probably leads to a decisive white advantage. The game also was no fun. Defending for 98 moves or something in this position material down, but ultimately he managed and he stays on the +1 score. That gives him all the chances to qualify for the desired match against Carlsen. But we also have to give credit to Giri here, who finally played a full-fledged attacking game and got a winning position, but it just happens sometimes. But you have to get into these positions first. So very good stuff here by the Dutch player. Okay, final game in this recap is Anand Aronian. So we have Anand, who's on +1, definitely in contention, playing against the tournament leader Aronian, who's on +2. So Vichy is going for the Italian game, and we have what we would probably can call the current main line here with a4. This has really gained momentum in recent month, this a4 idea, to develop the knight to a3. This, for example, this precise position was on the board in a game Giri Anand, reversed colors, not reversed colors, but Anand on the black side in Zurich. So knight a3 is white's idea. and here it is played. Aronian now technically plays a novelty, which shows that this position is relatively new because the actual move is totally normal. He plays knight to e7, going over to g6. A very common idea in the Italian game. The knight on c6 was mostly looking at protected squares, so it regroups. So all this looks rather normal. And bishop e3, castles. Yeah, usually black is reluctant in those structures to trade on e3. Here it probably is because he doesn't want to give white that easy recapture. In some other lines, white would take with the f pawn and open up this. That doesn't make much sense here, yeah, with the knight being on c2. But this is often a motivation for black not to take on e3 and give white that option. So, okay, castles taken on a7, knight to e3. And yeah, I think this is all looking very, very standard. The next move by Aronian, I have to admit, I don't like that much. He plays knight to g4. And I mean, I don't think that this is the reason for his troubles, but I'm not sure that this helps, let's say. The knight on f6 has one particular positive feature. It always looks at this pawn and makes it a little bit more difficult for white to play the move d4. And I think I would probably prefer here to to maybe like correct the rook or so. Yeah, delay any decision what to do here on the king side and ask white what he's going to play. Yeah, keep an eye on that pawn so that d4 doesn't help. After knight g4, white is rather quick here with this d4 move. I'm also not so sure about a5, but I have to say that the subtleties of those positions are really difficult to grasp. Do you want to play a5 here or not? White sometimes gets this in and has, yeah, a good space gain, but I'm really not sure if it is worth to spend a move to play a5. I cannot tell you. What I know is that the resulting position now after d4 and rook a8 is surprisingly a little bit difficult for black to handle. Anand now took on e5. That looks a bit simplistic, but it is not bad at all. The interesting point is that the normal recapture d takes is actually pretty bad. Yeah, and now black is in some trouble. He has to play this awkward move. And now rook d1. And it's very difficult now to even get the bishop out somewhere. Now that is not a good position at all. So he couldn't do that. He had to take with the knight. Knight takes. And again, if you take with the pawn, this is not so easy. Takes, and yeah, rook d1. And this knight is very well positioned. The black bishop doesn't have a good square. I mean, yeah, something like this is probably yeah, not an harmonious setup. White can, yeah, for example, gain space with b4. It doesn't look very comfortable. He decided to take with the knight, but here in this position, I think black has not equalized completely. White has more space, and it's definitely easier for white to play. Yeah, okay. This now was played. I probably would have preferred bishop e6, but okay, knight d7. And now b6. Yeah, this is the kind of move that you actually don't like to play with black. The problem of it is that it somehow weakens the light squares a lot. And yeah, hindsight is 2020. We will see what happens in the game. Yeah, probably it's not that bad, but you know, we slowly drift into something that looks absolutely not great for black. Yeah? Black has no space and he cannot prevent a piece from coming to d5. c6 is simply not possible. It's just a pretty passive position. Yeah. And this is not fun. This is not fun. Black is sitting there very passively, and how do you ever get that rook on a7 into the game? Yeah, I mean, ultimately, or not ultimately, he relatively quickly decided that you have to take on d5, and well, it's not something that you love to do, allow the c-pawn capture, and then you're sitting there with that pawn on c7. But it's very difficult to avoid in the long run. Yeah, Aronian tries to defend by simplification. King to e7 and f6, just to block it, completely trying to block it. But of course white has lots of more space and now gets to work on the king side. Yeah, tough decision, but at the end you cannot play without the rook or the whole game, so he decided to take on d5 and get this back. Okay, king f3 and rook to e8. Yeah, very interesting position now. Anand now decided to immediately go for it, and he got rewarded quite quickly for that decision. Here, of course, white also could opt for further further improvements, playing very slowly. That would have been an option. Moves like, I don't know, g4 or something like that. You can play g4 is probably not a great idea, but you can try to improve slowly here. Anand, however, decided to do something directly. Rook, king to g4, threatening king f5, and this is something that black cannot allow. If white gets this king up to f5, just invading, this is not acceptable. So black now has no choice. He has to grab that pawn on e4, and he did.
Check.
Rook g7 check. Yeah, and it seems that the next move gets black into real trouble. I mean, he had a bad position, a passive position, but not necessarily a losing position. And after the next move, which looks, I mean, perfectly normal, it probably is almost indefensible. He played this. And yeah, it seems that king d8 was better. It's very difficult to figure the differences out. But one key point is that after king d8, if white tries to now play as in the game, rook d2, c2, a key difference is that here, after this and rook c2, black has defensive ideas in f5 and rook e5. f5
Check.
is the cleanest way probably. King takes,
Check.
rook f8 is enough counterplay, or here then rook e7. Note that, for example, this is only possible because the king is here and not on c8. Yeah, in the game he played king to c8. It looks completely normal, and this kind of decision, if it is taken with no time, is very difficult. You just quite often just base it on intuition, and it sometimes is the wrong decision. Rook d2, and here is the second key point maybe. Now black should probably take that a4 pawn. After this he has c5, which looks, yeah, it looks questionable, or it looks, I don't know, tricky, but this is a key move that gives black counterplay. That also seemed to be playable. It's still critical for black, but it's probably better than the game. This was played in the game, king b8. That was move 40, and now the position becomes probably close to being lost. I don't really see how to improve now for black. c7 is attacked, and the active defenses don't seem to work. He played this ultimately. Yeah, if you take here, rook c7 should be probably winning for white. the big difference is simply that white's king is active and will take pawns and is just participating, while black is sitting there with this passive king on b8. It's a bit tough to analyze this now till the end, let's say, but it's also very, very critical for black. Yeah, rook a2 looks a bit passive, but white wants to play this
Check.
and win this pawn, which is more important. Now he's got 3 against 1 on the king side, and the queen side is just not mobile at all.
Check. Check. Check.
And this is the same picture. Those pawns will come forward quickly, and they are supported by the king, and black doesn't have any adequate counterplay. Yeah, here rook c2 didn't help, or wouldn't have helped. Yeah, has to block it, and now the pawns
Check.
start rolling. Yeah, rook a3 wasn't necessary, but it wins. The g pawn is too strong.
Check. Check.
Yeah, this
Check.
rook d5 after a king move. White just takes the rook and wins with the rook up. So a win for Anand, yeah, a super important result for this event. Means that Anand joins the lead with +2 together with Karjakin, and Aronian gets back to a +1 score. Not the end of the world, he still has all chances, but yeah, Vichy is in contention very, very clearly. And as was predicted by some people, I mean, Boris Gelfand, for example, predicted that Vichy will win this event, which I found, well, not a very likely prediction, but yeah, he proves us all wrong by again being completely, yeah, being in the thick of things. Yeah, he's currently leading the event together with Karjakin. One thing that should be noted is that if 2 players finish on the same score in this tournament, the direct result will determine the player who will challenge Carlsen. So that means, for example, in the current situation, Anand and Karjakin, they are on the same number of points. If they would finish like that, those 2 players, then it would be would check what those 2 players played against each other, and Karjakin beat Anand. So this is a very important fact. So let's say Vichy would draw Karjakin in their upcoming game, and they would score the same points, then Karjakin would qualify. So Karjakin has pretty good situation there in case of a tiebreak. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the coverage of round 9. Yeah, we still have 5 rounds left, and it will only get more exciting. Thanks for watching.